or have questions when the guest speakers are on, then there is the chat facility, which is good, or you could raise your hand in the chat, or wave to ask questions, and Carol and Tim will be sort of paying attention to that. Carol's going to mute us all during the presentations, and obviously we can unmute ourselves, but just so that when I slurp my tea, you won't all be disturbed by that. So anyway, just to sort of talk a bit about 2020, and bear with us as well, because obviously it's Zoom, and this is something that's quite unfamiliar to all of us in this, not done this before. 2020 obviously has been dominated by COVID. Passenger numbers fell through the floor, so they were about a third of a year ago in December, but will have fallen further as a result of the lockdown. Fortunately, the government actually recognised the importance of rail providing subsidies, the like of which we've never seen, which would be nice to have that continue. There's been an interesting result as well of the 18-month emergency recovery measures. Grant Shapps said they were, quote, designed to bring the rail franchising system to an end. Music to our ears, I think. Yeah. Campaigning as well obviously has been limited by COVID. However, we've been as active as we can be online, including attending various meetings, particularly obviously things like the council, where Tina at the Connected Cities conference, she wrote an article for Rail Professional, and members continue to write letters to the Bristol Post, which is great. And obviously Tim and Carol have been great with being very active, putting things on the website. And I would appeal for people, if they've got things that they want to post, a story. Obviously Tim will edit things that go on the website, and Carol likewise with social media. But please do get in touch with things you want posted. I think would be good to share. Unfortunately, the plans that we had for celebrating the 25th anniversary but with a big event weren't able to happen. But Julie and Teresa had the brilliant idea of the FoSBR Sixes. So groups of 6 people meeting and getting together at 6 different stations, along the line. And that was very successful. And obviously there's stuff about that on social media, which has caught people's attention. The other thing that we've had, Tim's been attending things to do with the Transport for Greater Bristol and Zero West developments, which Gavin will be talking about later on. One thing for 2020, we've within FoSBR's committee, we've said goodbye to Andy McGillivray, who was secretary, and to Tina, who was campaigns officer, and obviously with us for a long time. She accepted a present from us, which was ceremonially handed over by Julie, with appropriate social distancing, obviously. So we very much want to say thanks to Tina for the hard work that she's put in. Sadly, also FoSBR lost a friend in Mike Baker, who's known for the 3D plaque at Stapleton Road Station and lovely illustrations for FoSBR, amongst many talents. And in kind of positive things, 2020 has seen some really good action as well as talk. So Bristol East Junction, which Bernard I think will be talking about in more detail, provides changes to the track layout to the east of Templemead Station, extra track, and enables Metro West, most importantly. Associated with that, Wecker have announced the extension of Metro West to Gloucester and Westbury. And as part of that, they're funding some work to 3 level crossings, which will enable the Metro West journeys to Westbury. Temple Meads, obviously, we've seen has started to be refurbished now, and that's part of the, included in that is plans to extend the entrance out to the east to the Temple Quarter, which is a very welcome move. And things like Ashley Down Station, WECA have applied to the New Stations Fund to speed up delivery, which is a very proactive, positive sign. Patchway, as one of 8 Access for All funded stations, has had new lifts, but we don't yet know what Access for All will entail. Is it going to be access, or is it signage and passenger waiting areas, which is also included? I'd quite like to know about that. Portway Park and Ride will finally happen by the December timetable. And most welcome of all, FoSBR's long-standing goal of a half-hourly service that will be realised this year between Avonmouth and Westbury. So a real positive that we should really welcome. Now, during the last year, we've had more certainty, if that's the word, about when Portishead and Henbury will happen, and I've now forgotten what the dates are for that. And I think Henbury 2023, sorry, and Portishead 2024. So it seems as ever in some ways in the distance, but actually it's 2021 now, so slightly less in the distance than it was, but not wonderful. There have been other things nationally, like the New Stations Fund, which it looks like St Anne's could benefit from being developed, their argument, and the Beaching Fund as well to reopen new stations, new lines. WECA's rail plan, their strategic long-term rail plan has been published. And as well as accelerating things like Ashley Down and Charfield Station being built, they're looking towards the future and talking about a loop. I mean, in the much longer term, a loop at Severn Beach to enable trains to travel through to Parkway. So that's quite an interesting thing. I'm pleased that they're looking ahead. But a lot of things are kind of considered for the future, not for the present. And we're concerned that in comparison to Cardiff, where between Cardiff and Newport, where they're opening half a dozen stations to deal with the congestion on the M4, how are we dealing with congestion on the M32? Well, we're opening a big motorway junction and a road to Yate. So I'm not quite sure how helpful that really is. Issues that we'll be talking about later will be things like the issue of cuts after COVID. The government says that it wants to put money into infrastructure, but they've cut the rail infrastructure budget by £1 billion. Not a good start over 5 years, but still £1 billion. Passengers need to return. The numbers are very low, and we need to make sure that there are passengers coming back, because the pressure will be there from the Treasury. We know. New stations, we need to be thinking about that, and I think that's going to be one of the things for the year ahead, is thinking about and promoting new stations such as Colpit Heath and Horfield Lockleys, and the proposals for things like new power sources, promoting that locally, because Network Rail and WECA are very keen for local services to be electrified or to have alternative power. We need to think about things like getting people off the roads, out of their cars and onto rail, and that will only really be done through very regular services. So one of the things that we'll talk about later is the resolution about having 15-minute services in the Bristol area. So a lot of things are happening. There are some real positives which our speakers will be talking about in more detail. So I'll leave it to them to be talking, and move straight on